energy, not Cove Point.
Clean energy, not Cove Point. Clean energy, not Cove Point. Clean energy, not Cove Point. Clean energy, not Cove Point. Clean energy.
I'm just going to make my announcement again for everyone that missed it. Thank you so much for being here today outside of the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. We are holding the first annual People's Court to put on trial the decision makers and lawmakers that we elected into office to protect us, the citizens of Maryland and the citizens of the United States. Here you see a lineup and we're going to go through who all these people are. But first I want to turn over the mic to our Executive Director of Chesapeake Climate Action Network, Mike Tidwell.
First of all, thanks for coming, everybody. Thank you, elected officials, for coming today and being willing to take responsibility for your actions. That's what we're here for today. As many of you know, on Monday, earlier this week at around 7:40 p.m., the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission announced its final permit okaying construction of the radical frac gas export facility at Cove Point in southern Maryland. Despite mounds of testimony and scientific data showing that this $3.8 billion facility would incentivize harmful fracking throughout our region and increase smog, FERC refused even to conduct an environmental impact statement for this project, despite a study from the U.S. Department of Energy itself saying that gas exports will likely be worse than coal for the atmosphere over the next 20 years. FERC insisted that this project would create no climate or other significant environmental impact, which is utterly ridiculous. In other words, the Monday FERC decision on Cove Point was a giant lie. The FERC decision was a massive failure of federal regulatory responsibility and a massive failure of political leadership. That's why we're here today at FERC's doorstep today to convene the people's... We're here today, can y'all hear me? Is that better? That's why we're here at FERC's doorstep today to convene the People's Court on Cove Point, calling on the regulators and elected officials who have failed to stand up for us and issuing our own judgment on this matter. And later this afternoon, our friends in Lusby, Maryland will be holding a press conference in the front yard of the family that is Dominion's closest neighbor, literally right across the street. Dominion's LNG refinery and export facility would be the first ever built in a densely populated residential neighborhood, and residents are angry and they are scared. They'll speak that anger and fear and their commitment to keep fighting later today. As Tracy Eno, spokeswoman for Lusby-based Calvert Citizens for a Healthy Community, said in a telepresser earlier this week, quote, "At this point we have nothing to lose because we have everything to lose." Leaders from FERC Chairman Cheryl LaFleur, there she is, hi Cheryl, to Congressman Steny Hoyer, there he is, Steny, to Governor Martin O'Malley, to President Obama, are all guilty of letting this dangerous polluting project move forward. We are here today to hold them accountable.
All right, now we're going to kick off the People's Court with the Honorable Fred Tutman presiding.
Court is in session. As a judge, I am horrified by these horrible charges. Come now, all, before this court to seek elusive justice and democracy. These are serious charges indeed. The FERC decision is a massive failure and lack of leadership. FERC didn't act on its own. The charges are as follows. President Obama. The failure of political leadership starts with President Barack Obama, who in spite of a world hurtling past 400 parts per million carbon in the atmosphere, has embraced a destructive energy policy of all of the above. His all of the above policy explicitly includes fracking and frack gas exports, despite the science showing that such gas projects could lock his own children into climate disaster. Are the gas industry donations to the Democratic Party campaigns really worth that? The People's Court is in. President Obama, guilty for destructive all of the above energy policy. Guilty. But the failure doesn't stop there. It continues with Southern Maryland Congressman Steny Hoyer. Steny Hoyer in the dock. Steny Hoyer and the U.S. Senators Ben Cardin and Barbara Mikulski, all three have refused to publicly oppose this economically and environmentally harmful project. Indeed, none of these folks even called publicly for an environmental impact statement, despite the pleas of voters and newspapers like the Baltimore Sun. I'll read the charges. Again, the verdict is in. Senator Barbara Mikulski testified in 2007 in strong opposition to a proposed LNG terminal at Sparrows Point in Baltimore. She declared there's even more evidence that approving a new LNG plant is unsafe and unwise, her words, and yet asking, how can anyone make a decision on LNG without knowing the impact on public safety? Yet, in the case of Cove Point, Senator Mikulski refused to even demand a full environmental impact statement. Guilty for failing to demand a full EIS. Senator Ben Cardin. There you are. Despite calling climate change among the biggest global threats facing us today, Senator Cardin refused to act on a study from the U.S. Department of Energy itself, showing that gas exports are likely worse than coal for the atmosphere over the next 20 years. Guilty. Guilty for blatant climate hypocrisy and supporting worse than coal gas exports. Didn't we do Steny Hoyer? Steny Hoyer, we already do him? No.
It's not Steny.
Let's read the charges.
Bring him back up.
Steny Hoyer.
Hey, we've got Congressman Valley.
Bailiff, bring him up.
Steny Hoyer has been a proponent of Cove Point since day one, caring more about making things easier for Dominion than about making things safe for his constituents. Representative Steny Hoyer is guilty. Guilty for being Dominion's chief facilitator and Cove Point pollution being harmful to the Bay. Guilty. But the failure doesn't end there. It continues with Maryland Governor Martin O'Malley. Governor Martin O'Malley, despite the pleas of Calvert County, Maryland residents near Cove Point, the governor never ordered a comprehensive safety study to protect local citizens from accidental explosions at Cove Point. In fact, O'Malley literally fell asleep during a hearing on the project with citizen witnesses testifying just 30 feet across from him. He then voted to approve a wetlands license for construction of a large temporary pier on the Patuxent River required to build Dominion's dangerous export facility. Maryland Governor Martin O'Malley, guilty. Guilty for literally falling asleep as citizens pleaded for answers. And the failure continues with the decision makers who should have had Lusby community's best interest most at heart for failing to have the people's back, the Calvert County Commissioners. Residents of Calvert County have endured the betrayal of their own elected officials. County commissioners signed a non-disclosure agreement with Dominion in 2012, in effect pledging to keep critical information hidden from the public. Instead of holding Dominion to the highest safety standards, they passed a suite of zoning exemptions later declared unconstitutional by a Maryland judge. Calvert County commissioners, guilty. Guilty for giving sweetheart deals to Dominion while exposing children to appalling risks. And let's not forget Chairwoman Cheryl LaFleur. Cheryl LaFleur, whose stamp of approval put us here today. Cheryl LaFleur, during her FERC tenure as commissioner, LaFleur has dutifully voted for virtually every single fracked gas expansion project proposed by the industry. As FERC chairman, she has made no effort to examine, much less change, FERC's rubber stamping ways. She staunchly defends FERC's refusal to connect the very visible dots between fracking, pipelines, compressors, export terminals, and the harm they cause to people like us and to the planet. FERC Chairman Cheryl LaFleur, guilty. Guilty for continuing FERC's legacy as servant of the gas industry, not the public. The people's verdict is in.
Yeah, thank you, Judge. Thank you.
Thank
All of these defendants have been declared guilty. Guilty of violating the trust of the American people. Guilty of not diligently pursuing the best possible policy for energy and for public safety. Guilty.
All right, thank you very much, the Honorable Fred Tudman presiding. And now we're actually in a very good circle type formation right now, and we have a few of our very active volunteers, supporters that have a few thoughts to share, and we also want to take the opportunity to hear from all of you. And so we're going to gather around in a circle. Those that are representing our leaders can put those signs down to the side if you'd like, just behind you, and we're going to move this podium back like so, and we're just going to gather in closer. Closer, closer, closer. Form a circle.
Come on, we all know each other. Closer.
Alright, let's get in here. Okay, so first I have Elizabeth. Why don't you stand over here? Okay. And Elizabeth Hoffman, if you just want to introduce yourself, where you're from.
Okay,
And then
Hoffman from Cove County, Maryland.
do you want to
Yes,
use
they're having an expanded compressor station. Okay, all right, thanks. Anyway, FERC, we're on to you here. We are not surprised by this latest FERC ruling, but that doesn't remove the sting or sorrow or deter us in our fight against this ill-conceived project. FERC was born in the middle of an energy crisis. Congress was concerned about a shortage of non-renewable energy resources, and so created this regulatory commission and the Department of Energy in 1977. Also that year, Apple introduced the first home computer. Elvis Presley died. Laverne and Shirley, which had America pining for the 1950s, was the top TV series. Also that year, the United States government was beginning to work with industry and academia on the Eastern Gas Shales Project to develop a new drilling technique called slick water fracturing. Now, now, nearly 4 decades later, we are in the midst of a climate crisis. For the challenges we face is as much a relic as Laverne and Shirley and that first Macintosh computer. And each new study brings more unsettling revelations about the hazards from fracking. By approving Dominion's fracked gas export facility and others, as well as countless pipelines and compressor stations, FERC guarantees climate catastrophe. Today, we are clamoring for renewable energy sources, not non-renewable energy sources. FERC is obsolete and unresponsive. FERC sacrifices whole communities to industry profit and dismisses as irrelevant and unforeseeable the increase in fracking from projects it approves. FERC needs a new mission for this time, this generation. We need a new FERC that can help move us to climate stability.
Alright, I'm going to ask Anna to come up. You want me to hold it, or do you want to hold it? Yeah, it's alright.
Hello, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
I'm Ann, and I'm from Myersville, Maryland, and I've been FERC'd. Just like our friends in Cove Point, FERC completely overlooked the negative environmental impacts and the negative health impacts that a natural gas compressor station would have on my town. The county of Frederick has the worst air pollution. It got an F from the American Lung Association for ozone, and yet FERC said that that's okay. Build a compressor station a mile from an elementary school and allow that compressor station to emit 23.5 tons per year of nitrogen oxide, an ozone compressor. An ozone precursor. Nitrogen oxide is known to cause worsening asthma, increased hospitalization. The compressor station will also emit particulate matter. Particulate matter which will poison our streams. The compressor site sits just up from the Grindstone Run stream. FERC doesn't care because I'm not the industry. When the industry comes and submits a proposal, they are given a process advocate. I get a pamphlet. FERC doesn't work for the people. FERC is a rubber stamp for the industry.
Oh, great. Hi.
I think I can speak about it.
Oh, you can? Okay, your name and where you're from.
I'm Pete Ide. I own property in Lower Calvert County. Home to the county commissioners who are managing the budget for the 18th, I think, wealthiest county in the U.S. Yet that doesn't seem to be enough money for them. They just want more money, which doesn't really go with their anti-big government stance. So anyway, that's where I live, that's where I'm from. And I just, driving down the street, the highway the other day, it occurred to me that if I throw that on the ground in Maryland, it's a $1,500 fine. Yet they see fit to not only permit, but to incentivize Dominion to pump millions of tons of trash into our air that goes into our lungs, into our body. Not just a piece of trash sitting on the ground. That is innocuous and, yes, aesthetically unpleasing. So let me just speak to, what was that? But biodegradable, right? So, when it comes to aesthetics, let me just say something about this. That I voted for O'Malley, enthusiastically. I voted for Mikulski. I voted for Cardin. I voted for Obama. But let me tell you something, Mr. O'Malley is the worst offender in my mind on this. Let me just tell you, aesthetics, that's what he's all about. He's about aesthetics. He's not about action. He's not about you and me. He's about the next office. This is what he said at the Maryland Climate Change Summit, July 25th, 2013. Martin O'Malley. Climate change is not an ideological issue any more than gravity. It's not about whether we move left or right, but whether we make the right choices for Marylanders. As severe weather events continue to grow in size and impact, and elongated trends of poor air quality continue, the cost of inaction would grow exponentially. In Maryland, we are moving forward and taking action by creating green jobs and protecting our land, water, air, and public health. Martin O'Malley is a liar. That is a bold-faced lie. Don't buy it. Don't ever vote for him again for anything.
All right, who's up next? Who'd like to share a few thoughts about the decision? Or
Speaking of Governor Martin O'Malley. Speaking of Governor Martin O'Malley in Maryland, it's worth keeping in mind that Governor O'Malley kept silent about a highway called the Intercounty Connector that destroyed 18 miles of forest linearly until 2 days after the election when he announced that he was for it. Thanks to Governor O'Malley, who ran against two candidates who both were publicly for the Intercounty Connector and kept his mouth shut to pick up the votes of those who wanted to save the forest. Now we have a $3 billion toll road that nobody drives on, that's nearly empty even during rush hour, thanks to Governor Martin O'Malley. Now, if the Intercounty Connector decision is any guide, we should expect the same on Cove Point. That means we need to look elsewhere than the governor's office to stop it.
Right.
Anyone else? I see a lot of faces here. Yeah, absolutely.
Let's go, Emily.
I just want to say that, hi, my name's Emily Work. I'm with Food and Water Watch. And I don't know if you all saw an article yesterday that said that fracking is going to be the sleeper issue in the 2016 election. And I just want to say that We are growing our movement. We had 400,000 people in New York. We have thousands of people outside of Perth, and we are not going to stop here. We are going to hold all our elected officials accountable, and we are not going to let them approve the 20+ more export facilities that they want. We are just getting started here, and we have to keep fighting together. And I know we want to start showing up everywhere that Governor O'Malley is going to be. And so if anyone is interested in joining us in that, you can come talk to me afterwards, because we are going to hold him accountable for this. So let's keep fighting together, everyone.
Any thoughts on the decision? Oh, yeah! All right.
Let me try to speak.
Okay, and just say your name.
My name is Clark Herbert. I'm a retired school teacher from Fairfax County, Virginia. And to me, the issue is that the fossil fuels need to be left in the ground. It's that simple. It's that simple, and we do have a simple solution for it. And that is to put a price on carbon. Some places around the world are starting to do this, and it is the way that we can use the market system to move away from dirty fossil fuels and toward clean energy, and create a clean energy future for us all, and for our children and for our grandchildren. The march in New York City, the People's Climate March, was a bold statement about the urgency for action on this, and it brought many groups together. It brought labor into the climate movement, and it brought nonprofits into the climate movement. There was a divestment of the Rockefeller Brothers nonprofit fund. Yeah, now that's big and that's important, because this movement is growing. This movement is diverse, which is the kind of movement we need, and we just have to keep growing. So spread the word. All right.
All right, who's up next? Okay.
Yeah.
You want the microphone?
Yeah.
Okay.
Kathy Hargett. I work with CCAN, Sierra Club, Green America, and some other community groups, and I've been fighting fracking for 2 years, and I just want to say that we really need everybody with us. And I don't know about you guys, but I have a hard time sometimes getting my family and friends out here. So I've been thinking a lot about that, and I've been thinking this is not just an environmental movement. It's not just a health movement. It's not just a food movement. It's not just an animal rights movement. It's not just a land movement.
Right.
It's not just a justice movement. It's not just a capitalism issue and movement. It is all those things. It's our issue and it's our movement, and we have to get that out to our people that we love, because it affects them. It's their water, it's their food, it's their environment, it's their land, it's their property. That's right. So help me spread that word. Woo!
Anyone else? We got time for a couple more. New faces.
I'll say something.
Okay.
All right.
Hi, good morning. I'm Marcelle Envy. I recently graduated with a Master's in Sustainable Development, but my real interest in this issue is just, I grew up in Annapolis, grew up along the bay, and as they say, you protect what you love, and that's what brought me to the Cove March earlier this summer. That's what brought me to New York a couple weeks ago for the march. But today I'm here because I'm a bit angry. I'm not generally an angry person. I was drawn to this issue because of my love for the bay and my local community. But I really appreciated Obama's statements at the UN summit, and now in light of his agency's actions earlier this week, that just seems like lip service. So I'm here to ask for real leadership or new leadership, but we need a change. This is not.
Thank you so much.
Good morning, my name is Stan Boyd. I'm from Silver Spring, Maryland, and I come here as a person of faith. God has created this beautiful planet, the only blue planet in our solar system, and who knows how far in this solar system or throughout space. But in any case, we have a planet, and all those who love this planet for what it is should be joining us, no matter what faith, no matter what beliefs. This is our survival, and the ice is melting as we speak in Antarctic and in Arctic and in Greenland and on the glaciers on the mountains around the world. And when those are all melted and gone, where's going to be the water for the Indus River, for the Yellow River, for the Colorado River? How are we going to survive? This is a critical time in our history, and I don't know whether we will have very many generations left. Half of our animal species have already gone. We cannot just sit by and pretend like there is no problem. We need all the people to rise up and say, time, this is it, we must act, and we must really change the direction of our country. Thank you.
Hi, my name is TJ Matthews. I live in Cove Park, Maryland. In 1969, I was 10 years old. My family moved to California. Just a few months later after that, my mother joined Greenpeace and talked to me about it a lot. It was really important to her. Within a year or two, there was a giant oil spill in Santa Barbara, California, and maybe some of you remember that. And we talked about that at the dinner table. So I gotta say, when we come to these events, we see a lot of people with gray hair and a lot of young people. And we need you. If you're young, you have friends, you have peers. Yeah. We need your energy because some of us are slowing down a little bit. So we need everything you've got. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? I got a megaphone. I can hold the mic if you like.
That's all right.
Yeah, climate ride. Yeah, climate ride.
Yeah, my name is Rick Sullivan. I live in Kensington, Maryland, and yes, I was on the climate ride with Mike a couple years ago. And it was a great event. If anybody is interested in that, I encourage them to do it. But what I wanted to mention this morning is that I'm part of a new group out in Montgomery County. We're a divestment group. We're trying to get Montgomery County to divest its pension funds from fossil fuels.
Woo! Right.
And, we have a really great group of people. We're following the model that's come out from 350.org, and we have a lot of enthusiasm, a lot of momentum. There's a lot of mainstream investment counselors and investment professionals out there that are seeing now that fossil fuels are a really irresponsible investment because they understand that climate change means that the fossil fuels have to stay in the ground. And that's what the fossil fuels companies' stocks are based on. They're based on burning everything that's in the ground, and we can't do that. And so those stocks are going to be worthless pretty soon. And if you're a responsible investment fund manager, you get the hell out of them.
Yeah.
So it's a moral issue, it's an economic issue, it's a scientific issue, but it's also an investment issue.
Right.
NoCo.org, sign the petition. That would be great.
All right. Thanks so much for that.
We have a Facebook site too.
Great, thank you. Anyone else? Want to say something? Everyone's had a chance to share. All right. At this point, we're going to take some closing remarks from Mike Tidwell.
We've been fighting Cove Point for over a year. So many of you here have been in this fight for over a year. If there are things that we could have done over the last year to fight Cove Point that we didn't do, we're not aware of it. I mean, phone calling, emailing, research, lawyers, Freedom of Information Act requests, meeting with politicians, press conferences, telepressers, photography, videography, going to jail, marching, sweating, cheering, singing, chanting, praying, daydreaming, wishing, hoping, and fighting. We've done all that non-stop. Many of us have completely dedicated our lives to stopping this project. There's no guarantee that we're gonna stop it. We're up against, you know, we saw the figures right there from the White House on down, plus the labor unions, plus a mainstream media that is cynical and often non-responsive. There's some stars, there's some good journalists, but for the most part, they failed us on this issue in terms of the truth. But it has been an amazing fight. And the one thing that we've done is that we've alerted the rest of the country that when you frack and liquefy and export gas, it's worse than coal. It's worse than coal. And people don't have to rely on us to say that anymore. The U.S. Department of Energy says it. So we're going to keep fighting this in the courts as long as there's one more step we can take. As long as there's one more thing we can do, one more phone call, one more email we can send out, we will do that. As long as there's anything left to do to fight Cove Point, we are there. But from the very start, we said all along, when we launched this campaign in September of last year, a year ago September, we said our slogan was clean energy, not Cove Point. Clean energy, not Cove Point, because Cove Point is not clean energy. Two things. In terms of Cove Point, the goal all along was to make sure they don't export the gas. Even if they build this thing, $3.8 billion, even if they build it, we're going to make sure it doesn't export gas. Why? Because gas prices and demand are already falling in Asia. Dominion has a concrete track record of completely guessing wrong on the gas industry, international gas markets. They spent $700 million on an LNG import facility in 2006, which wasted every penny of that $700 million of their shareholders' money. They have a track record of getting it wrong. They are getting it wrong again because they're on the wrong side of history. They're on the wrong side of 400,000 Americans who marched in New York City. Am I right? Wrong again. Even if this organization, corrupt as it is, somehow allows Dominion to go forward with the folly of $3.8 billion of concrete and steel to build this thing, we will make sure that if it exports any gas, it will be a fraction of what they think it will because the tide of history is against it. Wind and solar prices are dropping. Demand for gas around the world is dropping. There's the supply of Marcellus shale gas is a fraction of what the gas industry tells us. We are right. We are right in what we are doing. We will win. Do not be discouraged. No matter what happens over the next few months, we are right. They are wrong. We are going to make the switch to wind and solar. We've said all along, clean energy, not Cove Point. So let's also focus on the clean energy side.
That's right.
In Maryland, we are going to introduce a bill in January, a radical clean electricity bill. It is as radical on the clean energy side as FERC is radical on the gas side. This will double wind and solar in Maryland. It will move our renewable portfolio standard from 20% clean energy by 2020 to 40% by 2025. This is a game changer. Look, we've been playing defense left and right. Defense, we have to hunker down, we have to push back. Defense, they're assaulting us. They're coming after our state. They're coming after our mountains and our Marcellus shale. We have to play defense. The clean electricity standard in Maryland, we get to go on offense. Beautiful, glorious offense. You guys want to go on offense? Yeah! Let's get this bill past, we said all along, clean energy, not Cove Point. We're going to keep fighting Cove Point. Even if they build the damn thing, we're going to fight to make sure they don't export the gas. But fight for the clean energy too. Fight with us. We've got the service unions in Maryland are already on board with this. The Maryland Ecumenical Council, the Catholic bishop, the head of the Presbytery, the Episcopalian bishop, they are all on board with this 40% clean electricity standard in Maryland. We are building an unstoppable coalition of students, faith leaders, unions, environmentalists. Clean energy, not Cove Point. So let's keep fighting the Cove Point. As long as there's anything left to do, we will do it, right? Yeah. And as long as there's everything we can do to fight for clean energy, are you with me? Yeah. Don't give up. Let's keep going. Thanks, everybody. Not Cove Point.
Clean energy, not Cove Point. Clean energy, not Cove Point. Clean energy, not Cove Point. Clean energy, not Cove Point. Clean energy, not Cove Point.